The Hidden Messages in Water by Masaru Emoto, translated to English by David A. Thane. Chapter 1. Of What is the Universe Made? Understanding the fact that we are essentially water is the key to uncovering the mysteries of the universe. If you re-examine the world around you from this new perspective, you will start to see things as you have never seen them before. The various events that unfold throughout a person's life are events reflected in water. The individual and society make up one enormous ocean. By adding our individual drops to this ocean, we participate in the formation of society. I wanted as many people as possible to hear the message that water has for us, and so I decided to publish the photographs of the ice crystals. This act was only a small drop, but it created a ripple that resulted in an ever-expanding wave that has had enormous impact on my life and the lives of many others. I first published my photographs in 1999, 6 long years after I started out on this unusual venture. During those first 6 years, a mountain of photographs had accumulated and was just sitting there in my office. To prepare the photographs for publication, I tried to put them in some sort of order, and as I did so, I started to realize that there was a story unfolding before my eyes. I began to realize that there was a grand and marvelous story that each individual crystal was trying to tell me. As soon as I latched onto the idea of publishing my photographs, I talked to several publishers about my idea, but no one seemed interested. Rejection didn't change my determination to have my photographs published, and so I decided that I would publish them on my own. But I soon realized that though I could afford to have the photographs printed and bound into a book, the restrictive distribution system in Japan wouldn't allow me to have the books sold in bookstores. This seemed like a formidable obstacle, but I just decided not to worry about it. When the completed books arrived, we packed up the books for the few hundred friends and acquaintances who had reserved copies and sent them off. Not long after sending off these first copies, a strange thing started to happen. We started getting reorders from the people who had reserved copies. They had told their friends and acquaintances about the book, and those people had told others. Some people bought 5 or even 10 copies and distributed them to their friends. It indeed seemed like the drop in the pond had become a fast-spreading ripple. My expectations quickly expanded, and I next wanted people around the world to know what was in this book of photographs, and so I had a translation company translate all the explanations into English. Happily, people from around the world did see the book. Shizuko Awihand, a woman who would later serve as my interpreter, sent the book to friends in Europe and America, and this resulted in invitations from people who had seen the photographs to visit those countries and present lectures. Over the years, I have been blessed with opportunities to visit Switzerland, Germany, Australia, the Netherlands, Italy, England, the United States, Canada, and many other countries to introduce the crystals to the people of the world. Everything seemed to happen at just the right time. People are looking for a way to make sense of this world of chaos that we find ourselves in. This photograph album became a small but meaningful drop that created a ripple, which has since spread throughout the world. I would like here to introduce only a small portion of the photographs that I have taken. Some of them are included in the work, The Messages of Water, and some from the second collection of photographs called The Messages of Water 2, and other photographs were taken especially for this book. You yourself will be able to clearly see the effect that words, photographs, and music can have on water. These photographs were seen by Japanese as well by people from around the world, many of whom sent me letters with their opinions and thoughts. The pebble that I threw into the pond had indeed created a large ripple that now started to come back to me. I was astounded to see that so many people were impressed by the effect that the energy of human consciousness and words had on the formation of ice crystals, despite the fact that this idea that words and thoughts have the power to change water and other substances may certainly seem like far-out religion or philosophy. In the following photographs, we showed words to water. We wrapped a piece of paper with words typed on it around a bottle of water. This one is love and gratitude. This crystal is as perfect as can be. This indicates that love and gratitude are fundamental to the phenomenon of life in all of nature. Here are some examples of various messages that water interpreted from high vibrational statements, and some that are negative. When words that indicated harm to humans were shown to the water, no crystals formed. It even appears that the words, "You make me sick," created the shape of a man with a gun. The word angel resulted in a ring of small crystals linked together, while the word Satan formed a crystal with a dark lump in the center, as if ready to attack. Let's do it creates a lovely shape, while do it creates a crystal similar to that created by the word Satan. This might indicate that force and commands are alien to the principles of nature. This shows what a simple "I'm sorry" can result in. Perhaps the reason the crystal is blurred is because a simple "I'm sorry" can sound more sincere than a more elaborate apology. The word wisdom in various languages created beautifully formed crystals. This may indicate that wisdom is a basic principle of nature throughout the world. A test conducted at an elementary school. Here are some photographs taken after children at a Japanese elementary school spoke to the water, and also one photograph of water that was ignored. The children said different things to different bottles of water. When the children said, "You're cute," to the water, cute crystals formed, but "you fool" had the opposite effect. When the children said, "You're beautiful," a few times. When the children said, "You're beautiful," several times. When the water was ignored. When the water was told, "You're beautiful," several times, it resulted in crystals more well formed than when the water was only told this a few times. The crystal formed by the ignored water was the least complete. What does the face of the cosmos look like? Here are photographs of crystals made from water exposed to the word cosmos in Japanese, English, and German, and also a crystal formed using a photograph of the Earth. All three crystals are similar, with clearly formed crystals. It appears that the principles of the cosmos transcend language differences. When shown a photograph of the Earth, the crystal is beautiful, but we can't help but notice that it is a little deformed. If not for this deformity, it would be as beautiful as any complete crystal. What happens when water is exposed to music? The following crystal photographs were produced when glass bottles of water were placed between two speakers. Beethoven's music resulted in fanciful crystals with great detail and exactness, creating a healing effect. This beautiful crystal reflects the beauty of this piece of music. The crystal seems to indicate the unreserved way that Mozart lived his life. This flowing melody by Bach in the famous arrangement for violin and piano is well represented by this crystal. Piano music seems to create droplet-like crystals. The top crystal indicates a swan, while the rainbow colors of the bottom crystal seem to represent the light of hope, perhaps affected by the story of Swan Lake. The orthodox form was unexpected. Perhaps this is a result of this song being a favorite throughout the world. As if to mimic the song, Heartbreak Hotel by Elvis Presley, the crystal is divided into two parts. Modern jazz from the 1950s created this beautiful crystal, indicative of the healing qualities of this music, created during a period of turmoil. This is the result of loud music full of angry and vulgar lyrics. The result is similar to that created by You Fool, indicating that water responds more to words than to music. The four seasons are well represented by these crystals: the blossoming of spring, the flowery summer, the promise of new life in mature fall, and the quiet steadiness of winter. The words, "I found a little autumn," resulted in small crystal with grains that look like fallen leaves, and the crystal resulting from red dragonfly could be interpreted as 6 dragonflies with their petal-like wings spread open. The color of this crystal changed every 10 seconds, showing that water also breathes. Perhaps the changing of the center to red indicates the changing color of the tangerine. Harmful effects of electromagnetic waves. Samples of distilled water and water shown the words love and gratitude were placed next to televisions, computers, and mobile telephones, and heated by microwave ovens. The water samples shown love and gratitude on the left created more complete crystals than the distilled water samples on the right. This would indicate that moderation is needed with televisions and computers. The distilled water heated in the microwave resulted in a crystal similar to that created by the word Satan, and the water exposed to the mobile telephone can't be much better for your body. This beautiful crystal is made from water, shown a program about the mysteries of life, showing that the danger of electromagnetic waves changes with the content of the information. Some unusual crystals. On the following pages are photographs of crystals made from lake water that has been prayed over. Water shown the name of Amaterasu, the Shinto sun goddess, and water shown images of crop circles, dolphins, and groundwater right before and after an earthquake. A priest repeated a healing prayer facing the lake. The first crystal before the prayer looks like a distorted face, but the crystal formed after the prayer looks like a light shining from the galaxy. This crystal looks like a beautiful mirror, or perhaps the outline of the sun. In addition to being beautiful, it radiates with grandeur or even holiness. The crystal shown a crop circle looked like a UFO. The water from Japan's oldest shrine resulted in a crystal that resembles the shape of the character in Japanese that means gratitude. Dolphins are said to be as intelligent as or more intelligent than human beings, and are said to have healing powers. This noble crystal seems to radiate with healing. Before the earthquake, no crystals were formed, as if the water were predicting the earthquake. As time passed after the earthquake, the ability of the water to form crystals returned, while some water resulted in crystals of grandeur, as if to symbolize all the beauty of this world. The crystals formed from other water were deformed or non-existent, as if to tell us something about the dark recesses dormant within the soul. When I give lectures, I use slides to show my photographs of ice crystals. The reactions to these slides are quite varied. I often hear people gasp in surprise, and sometimes even see them shed tears. I have discovered that a single drop of water can have various ripple effects on an individual. Manuela Kim, the person who first invited me to give a lecture in Switzerland, expressed her feelings this way when she reacted to the photographs. We can see the wonder of the water crystal photographs with our own eyes. As a result, our consciousness makes a rapid leap. This awakening of the consciousness happens almost instantly. The fact that things that we have thought and felt can be seen with our eyes accelerates this change. Another Swiss participant responded, "Through the photographs, I could see that the energy of our consciousness and words can change things that we can actually see with our eyes. This is the first and only way that this elusive energy can be viewed. We don't believe what we can't see, but the ice crystals show us everything. It's no longer about whether you believe or disbelieve. Using this method, anyone can conduct their own experiment and prove it for themselves. And a Japanese reader wrote, "Water is not just another substance. It is the life force of majestic nature." It made me once again realize the mysterious ability of water to cleanse and give life to all living. I can see that the soul, feelings, and vibration have an effect on the formation of ice crystals, and through this, I can feel the importance of the soul and words. This information is extremely wonderful and uniquely impressive. It appears that ice crystals are closely and permanently linked to the human soul. When I think about why ice crystals have spoken to so many people, I know that it is because they contain the key to the mysteries of the universe, and this key can unlock the consciousness required to understand the proper order of the universe and our role in it. Let's imagine that you could reduce your body to microscopic size, and that you set off on an exploration to discover the secrets of this universe called you. You would soon see that each thing consists of nothing more than atoms, each atom being a nucleus with electrons rotating around it. The number and shape of these electrons and their orbits give each substance a particular set of vibrational frequencies. You would discover that whatever the substance, nothing is solid. Instead, there is only a nucleus surrounded by an endlessly rotating wave. Everything is eternally moving and vibrating on and off at an incredible speed. According to the Hanya Shingyo, the Buddhist wisdom and heart sutra, that which can be seen has no form, and that which cannot be seen has form. We can now say that this strange contradiction, spoken ages ago by the Buddha, has been proved true by modern science. Our eyes can see objects, but they can't see vibration. However, I'd like you to ask yourself if you haven't had an experience similar to the following. You are talking with someone in a room, and the mood is warm, friendly, and free-flowing. Then another person enters the room. The moment they open the door, you notice a change in the atmosphere, and now instead of warmth filling the room, the space is encased in a dark and cold mood. You look at the new arrival's face and see a haggard expression and humped over shoulders, someone who looks like they are just tired with life. What could be the cause of this pain? Maybe a broken heart, a mistake at work, or just general disgust with life. I'll leave it up to you. What I want you to think about is why the mood in the room changed the moment that the door was opened. Human beings are also vibrating, and each individual vibrates at a unique frequency. Each one of us has the sensory skills necessary to feel the vibrations of others. A person experiencing great sadness will emit a sadness frequency, and someone who is always joyful and living life fully will emit a corresponding frequency. A person who loves others will send out a frequency of love, but from a person who acts out evil will come a dark and evil frequency. This same principle also applies to objects and locations. For example, there are locations where accidents frequently happen, locations where businesses succeed, and locations that create happiness. And you might have heard about a jewel that brings tragedy to successive owners. This applies not only to physical objects, but the various phenomena that go on in the world also emit characteristic frequencies. A change in the energy of the atmosphere results in lightning and storms. Intense energy will result in natural disasters, but we need to realize that these are not evil events. If we consider the enormous amount of evil energy being blown away, perhaps we should actually be appreciative of lightning and storms. For another illustration, think about the fact that people around the world enjoy coming together to celebrate. When people gather, wear special clothes, sing and dance, and are festive, the result is that stagnant and evil vibrations are dissipated and joyous vibrations are created. All things vibrate, and they vibrate at their own frequencies. When you understand this, you will significantly broaden your understanding of the universe. With this understanding, your eyes will open to things you have never seen before, things previously pushed to the back of your consciousness. And these discoveries and feelings will give new life to your soul. The fact that everything is in a state of vibration also means that everything is creating sound. This doesn't mean that we can hear every sound, although there are some people who apparently hear the voices of trees and who can communicate with plants. Whether we can hear the sound or not, we can say that the unique frequency of all objects can be interpreted as sound. It is said that the human ear is generally capable of hearing frequencies from approximately 15 Hz to 20,000 Hz. The abbreviation Hz, or Hertz, indicates the number of cycles of the repetitive waveform per second. Actually, it's a good thing that our ears have such limits, otherwise, we probably wouldn't be able to sleep at night. The natural world is indeed well designed, everything is in balance, and as sound is created, there is a master listener to receive the sound, water. Let me ask you to think about why crystal formation would be affected by music, and why completely different results would be reached depending on the spoken and written words water was exposed to. The answer is found again in the fact that everything is vibration. Water so sensitive to the unique frequencies being emitted by the world essentially and efficiently mirrors the outside world. Music and spoken words are vibration. They are easily understood and interpreted by just about anyone. Sounds like the chant created by a human voice at a Buddhist funeral create a healing frequency. But how can we interpret the phenomena of crystal formation being affected by words written on paper and shown to water? The written words themselves actually emit a unique vibration that the water is capable of sensing. Water faithfully mirrors all the vibrations created in the world and changes these vibrations into a form that can be seen with the human eye. When water is shown a written word, it receives it as vibration and expresses the message in a specific form. You might think of letters as being a visual code for expressing words, but what, fundamentally, are words? The Old Testament states, "In the beginning there was the Word." This would mean that before the creation of the universe, there existed the Word. My interpretation of this is that the Word created human beings, and human beings then learned words from nature. In primeval times, when people lived within nature, they needed to protect themselves, and so they were sensitive to the frequencies and sounds generated by nature in order to detect danger before it could sneak up on them. The sound of the wind blowing, the sound of water flowing, the sound of an animal walking through the grass, the ability to understand these sounds and relay them to others using one's voice was required for survival. It is likely that these attempts at language were simple messages of a few words, but with the development of culture and accumulation of experience, our vocabulary expanded. Why, then, are the languages that people speak so diverse? This is quite easy to understand if you consider that language is learned from the vibrations of the natural environment. The natural environment varies greatly with location, and each environment will create different vibrations. The volatile weather climate of Europe and the humid islands of Asia all create different vibrations that flow out of nature. In Japan, there are 4 distinct seasons, and so the Japanese language reflects this with a beautiful lexicon of weather-related words. Water exposed to the words Thank you formed beautiful geometric crystals, no matter what the language. But water exposed to "you fool" and other degrading words resulted in obviously broken and deformed crystals. According to the Bible, before the Tower of Babel, all people spoke the same language. Perhaps this is telling us that even though location and natural environment differ, the fundamental principles of nature are the same. We can surmise that when a complete geometric crystal is formed, water is in alignment with nature and the phenomenon we call life. The crystals do not form in water that has been polluted by the results of our failure to remember the laws of nature. When we tried taking photographs of crystals from Tokyo's tap water, the results were pitiful. This is because the water is sanitized with chlorine, thus damaging the innate ability of water to form crystals. When water freezes, the particles of water link together to form the crystal nucleus, and when the nucleus grows in a stable way into a hexagonal shape, a visible water crystal appears. But when information in conflict with nature is present, an incomplete crystal will be formed. The words gratitude and love form the fundamental principles of the laws of nature and the phenomenon of life. Therefore, water in its natural form is required to create the hexagonal form. By contrast, words such as "you fool" do not exist in nature and are instead unnatural elements created by people. Words that revile, harm, and ridicule are the result of the culture created by humans. It's likely that only vibrations of love and gratitude appear in nature, and observation of nature shows this to be true. The trees and plants show respect for each other by the way they live in harmony. This also applies to the animal kingdom. Even lions only kill when hungry, and never at random. The plants in the shadows of the trees do not complain, and the animals do not try to take more food than they require. In an article in the March-April 1989 issue of the American scientific journal 21st Century Science and Technology, Warren J. Hammerman wrote that the organic matter that forms human beings generates a frequency that can be represented by sound at approximately 42 octaves above middle C, the note near the center of the piano keyboard. The modern standard for middle C is approximately 262 Hz. So this means that the sound reaches roughly 570 trillion Hz. Since Hz means vibrations per second, this indicates that human beings vibrate 570 trillion times a second, a number that exceeds the imagination and indicates incredible and wonderful hidden potential. It is difficult to conceive 42 octaves, but just realize that the frequency of the human being is immensely diverse and unparalleled. The human being holds a universe within, filled with overlapping frequencies, and the result is a symphony of cosmic proportions. When I talk to people about vibration and frequency, I use what I like to call the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti theory. This simple theory just means that the frequency of everything in the cosmos can be summarized in 7 parts do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, and ti. The universe consists of an uncountable number of things ranging from the lowest to the highest frequency. It might help to imagine keys aligned in order on a piano keyboard, starting from the lowest sound. If you press down on the white keys, you will hit do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, and ti. When you move up the keyboard 1 octave, from one do to the next, the frequency doubles. In other words, the doubling of frequencies divided into 7 parts is do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, and ti. Therefore, the repeating of these 7 sounds expresses all sound from the lowest to the highest. But what enlightenment can be obtained by seeing frequency as sound? The most important revelation is that of resonance. Sounds of the same frequency resonate. This can be understood by making use of a tuning fork, a Y-shaped instrument used to tune the pitch of an instrument or voice. When a tuning fork is hit with a rubber hammer, creating a la sound, and a singer responds with a la, the tuning fork and the voice create a single frequency sound wave. This is called resonance. When one side creates a frequency and the other responds with the same sound, they resonate. It's said that likes attract, and so it would appear that vibrations attract and interact with each other. With some careful observation, you'll see that this same phenomenon is going on all around you. A dog walking along the street may not respond to other animals it passes, but will be very responsive to a dog on the other side of the street. Dogs will often howl when they hear the sound of a siren, and this could also be a type of resonance. And we see this in human relationships. People who generate similar frequencies are attracted to each other, resulting in friendship. Certain people remain uninterested in each other, no matter how physically close they may be. However, if someone you don't like approaches you and you react, this also means that you are resonating in some way with that person. The greatest secret of Japanese martial arts is referred to as winning without fighting. This essentially means avoiding resonating with the enemy. To fight and win results in resonance with the enemy, and so the level of the relationship is very low. When frequencies are fundamentally incompatible, they cannot resonate. We cannot accept what is fundamentally different from us. However, an interesting fact is that resonance can result even when frequencies are not identical. This happens, for instance, when the frequency is doubled. Playing the La key on the piano at 440 Hz and the La key an octave lower at 220 Hz creates quite a pleasant resonating sound, and responding to a tuning fork with a sound one octave lower also creates nice resonance. When the frequency difference is twofold, fourfold, eightfold, and so on, or one half, one quarter, and so on, the result is resonance. The principle of this relationship extends to infinity. No matter how distant the frequencies, resonance will result if one of the two numbers is a multiple of the other. We can also say that for every sound on each level, there is a resonating sound on every other level. When you think about it, people are attracted to Christ, Buddha, and others who emit a high level of vibration. But we also find ourselves attracted to the low-level outlaws of society, such as Bonnie and Clyde. This may seem like an inconsistency, but it can be explained by the fact that people resonate with others on various levels. Perhaps this dichotomy is a natural part of life. It might help our understanding in this area to consider how to interpret, from a vibration frequency perspective, the phenomenon of two people falling in love. Love is one type of resonance. If, for example, you have a frequency level capability of 10, you will resonate with others on that same level, or perhaps with someone on a level a little higher, say 12. When people resonate and fall in love, they rise to their highest level of capability. If a person with a capability of 10 who has only been using 5 parts of that capacity falls in love with someone with a level of 12, then he or she will naturally make use of the level 10 capability and show an increase in frequency. When you are in love, you perform better at work, and the work that you do and often your environment may well change without you realizing it. People who continue to do superior work well into old age are almost inevitably in love. Of course, this love is not limited to romantic love. It also can include a loving respect and attraction towards other people. Love has the effect of raising our frequency level and making us shine. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could be in love for a lifetime? Most of the objects found in nature emit stable frequencies. Each sparrow sounds basically the same, though the sparrows themselves might recognize slight differences, and the sounds made by dogs or cats do not have a great deal of variation. By contrast, the human being is able to make full use of the do, re, mi, fa, so, la, ti scale to create beautiful melodies. Wouldn't you agree that this is indeed a marvelous ability? Humans are the only creatures that have the capacity to resonate with all other creatures and objects found in nature. We can speak with all that exists in the universe. We can give out energy and also receive energy in return. However, this ability is a two-edged sword. When people act out only on their own greed, they emit an energy that serves to destroy the harmony within nature. The defiling of our earth is the result of an unrelenting hunger for convenience and the fulfillment of greed, initiated by the Industrial Revolution. This has led to lifestyles of mass consumption that seriously threaten the global environment. We have embarked on a new century, a time in history when we must make serious changes in the way that we think. Only the human can resonate with the rest of the world, and this is why it is so essential that we change our thinking, so we can live in harmony with nature and not go on destroying the earth. What vibration we give to the earth and what kind of planet we create depends on each one of us as individuals. How will you choose to live your life? If you fill your heart with love and gratitude, you will find yourself surrounded by so much that you can love and that you can feel grateful for, and you can even get closer to enjoying the life of health and happiness that you seek. But what will happen if you emit signals of hate, dissatisfaction, and sadness? Then you will probably find yourself in a situation that makes you hateful, dissatisfied, and sad. The life you live and the world you live in are up to you. Chapter 2. The Portal into a Different World. Now I'd like to ask you to put down this book, pour a glass of water, and place it on the table before you. Or if that's not possible, imagine that you have done it. What do you see in the glass? You can see the room that you're in, the scenery from the window, and the overall feeling around you, all recorded by the water. Water is something so common that we seldom pause to think about it. Although we drink it, wash with it, and cook with it every day of our lives, few people spend much time seriously thinking about water. But there is probably nothing more mysterious. One of the most mysterious things about water is the simple fact that ice floats in it. When other substances move from the liquid to the solid state, the density of the molecules and atoms that form the solid increases, and the substance becomes relatively heavier. However, water particles align in a very regulated way, with many large spaces between them. When ice returns to water, the particles become hundreds of thousands of times more active. As the particles become more active, the spaces fill in, making the liquid form of water denser and heavier than the solid form. Water is at its heaviest at 4 degrees Celsius, 39 degrees Fahrenheit. This is the temperature at which the active water particles fill the empty spaces of the molecular structure. As the temperature increases, the particles become even more active, which then lowers the density. For this reason, no matter how cold the temperature is above a lake or other such body of water, the temperature at the bottom remains stable at 4 degrees C. The result is that the living creatures of the lake are able to survive long winters under the ice. If water behaved like other substances and ice sank to the bottom, then what would happen? For one thing, we would probably not be here. Every time the temperature dropped, the bottoms of the lakes and oceans would become solid ice, and all living creatures would die. due to the fact that ice floats. Even when the surface of water becomes covered in ice, the environment below the ice allows life to go on. Water also has the unique ability to dissolve other substances and carry them away. Think about how much matter can be dissolved into water and how difficult it is to return water to its original pure state. At semiconductor plants and chemical factories, special water purifiers are used to secure water that is extremely pure. But as soon as this water is placed in a container made of plastic or most other substances, impurities begin to dissolve. Maintaining water in a completely pure state is extremely difficult. It will not surprise you to learn that even tap water and water from streams that look perfectly clear contains many impurities and minerals. This ability of water to dissolve other substances creates a type of soup of life that supplies the oceans with the necessary nutrients that enable life. This soup became the birthplace of all living creatures on the earth. Indeed, water is the force that creates and gives life. Without water, particles wouldn't mix together or circulate. Water created chaos on the earth, and it also gave birth to order, resulting in a planet overflowing with life. It is an ancient belief that where there is water, there is life. In Japan, a place where water rose up from the ground was considered to be sacred and to have high energy levels, making it the ideal spot for erecting a shrine. Other spots were also designated as sacred because of the path of energy they emitted, and such spots were almost inevitably found to be above underground water. Water is the mother of life, while also being the energy for life. This is possible because of the unique characteristics of water. My investigation into the mysteries of water makes me think that water is something not of this earth. Why do you think there is so much water on the earth? Most explanations say that when the earth was formed some 4.6 billion years ago, water turned to steam, evaporated, and formed rain that fell on the earth, resulting in the creation of the oceans. But it all started with the birth of the sun. Lumps of gas came together and started rotating, forming a red ball. The remaining dust and gases came together and formed the Earth and the other planets in the solar system. At this time, the Earth was still a ball of burning magma that contained hydrogen. As the magma cooled, the hydrogen evaporated into the newly formed atmosphere. But not all scholars agree with this theory, and some offer radically different alternatives. One such scholar is Louis Frank of the University of Iowa, who has proposed that water arrived on this planet in the form of lumps of ice from outer space. Professor Frank began his investigation when he became puzzled by the fact that satellite photographs showed black spots. He reached the conclusion that these black spots were small comets that were falling to Earth. These mini comets are actually balls of water and ice weighing 100 tons or more and falling into the Earth's atmosphere at a rate of about 20 per minute or 10 million per year. The theory is that these balls of ice bombarded the Earth 40 billion years ago, creating the seas and oceans, and this same phenomenon continues today. As the Earth's gravity pulls these ice comets into the atmosphere, the heat of the sun evaporates them and turns them into gas. As they fall 55 kilometers from outer space, the gas particles mix with the air in the atmosphere and are blown about, falling to the Earth as rain or snow. A few years ago, an announcement by NASA and the University of Hawaii that Dr. Frank's theory does have credibility was widely publicized by the media. But there are still many scientists who refuse to accept this new way of looking at the world. If this new approach were to gain widespread credibility, it would require many of the books in the world's libraries to be rewritten. It would have an impact on almost all of the scientific theories related to life on this planet, such as the origin of man and Darwin's theory of evolution. It is universally accepted that there can be no life without water, and if we accept that water, the source of all life, was sent from outer space, then logic leads us to the conclusion that all life, including that of human beings, is alien to this planet. But if we go along with this theory of water being extraterrestrial, then perhaps we can better understand the many unusual characteristics of water. Why does ice float? Why is water able to dissolve so much? Why is a towel able to soak up water, seemingly in defiance of the laws of gravity? From the standpoint that water is not of this world, these and other mysteries surrounding water may seem a little less difficult to understand. Water from outer space. It might seem a little too far-fetched, but doesn't it also tickle your imagination? After water has completed its long journey through the cosmos, it begins its next phase of travels on our planet. The lumps of ice arrive on Earth, and then they become clouds and eventually fall to the earth as rain or snow. The water then washes the mountains, seeps into the ground, becoming rich in minerals, and then rises to the surface again. From rivers to oceans, the sun evaporates water and returns it to the atmosphere to once again form clouds. This water, and the minerals that it carries through this cycle, are what make life possible. The carbon dioxide in the atmosphere melts into the oceans and enables photosynthesis, creating a perfectly balanced ecological system. The ocean is where the first speck of life emerged, some 3.8 billion years ago. The speck evolved into algae capable of photosynthesis, resulting in the first supply of oxygen. This oxygen, interacting with ultraviolet rays from the sun, encased the Earth in a protective veil called the ozone layer. Then, some 420 million years ago, life took its first step out of the water and freed itself from the depths of the ocean with the help of oxygen and the ozone layer. The birth of our humanoid parents is believed to have taken place only 20 million years ago in Africa. If we consider the Earth's 4.6 billion year history as constituting 1 year, the human being was born at 8 o'clock in the evening on the final day, all made possible by the formation of oxygen and the ozone layer. And the force that created life and allowed life to evolve was, of course, water. Water was able to do this because it has the unique ability to dissolve the required nutrients for life and carry them from the mountains and rivers into the oceans. So next we ask ourselves if this grand drama of life is just an accident. When we think of the plot that began at a time so distant in the past as to tax our imaginations, the birth of life on this planet, leading to the creation of a perfect system that enabled evolution, we cannot help but feel that a grand intention was somehow involved. Kazuo Murakami, Professor Emeritus of Tsukuba University, received global attention for interpreting the oxide DNA code called renin. His take on this question is that the more you understand DNA, the more you are forced to admit that some hand played a role in the recording of so much minute and elaborate information in such small spaces. The term he uses to describe this existence is something great. The grand drama of water and life cannot be explained if we exclude the existence of something great. Even now, the storyboard continues to unfold, in accordance with the scenario written by the grand intentions of the cosmos. What information did ancient water bring with it when it left outer space and fell to Earth? We can assume that it carried the program needed for the development of life. And now I hope you are beginning to get a clearer image of what life is all about. Water that falls from the sky takes scores, or sometimes hundreds of years, to seep into the ground and become groundwater. Jonas Davis of the Zurich Technical University has conducted research into river water for some 30 years in Switzerland, and she refers to it with the expression wise water. By contrast, she refers to water that has recently fallen as juvenile water, in the process of falling to the earth, seeping into the ground, and then emerging. Water obtains information from various minerals and becomes wise. After 30 years as a professor, Joan has retired from the university and now conducts her own research. At a symposium in Switzerland, I had the honor of giving a presentation alongside her. The focus of her research is water processing. The current system of supplying water through long pipes results in water that is not extremely healthy for the body. When water is exposed to high pressure and flows straight through pipes, the water clusters break down, letting minerals escape. And so Joan has focused her attention on finding simple ways to supply healthy water to large numbers of people, including the poor. One of her suggestions is to use crystals. When small ice crystals are introduced into water, the minerals in the water are retained, resulting in water that grows healthier crops. She has also conducted research into improving the quality of water using magnets and designing water taps to give circular movement to the water. She wants to know how natural movement can be introduced into the way water is supplied. Joan has the following to say about her research. I have heard from many people with interest in your research into ice crystals. I think that this research will give people some important suggestions. One suggestion is to give more respect to water. Another is to become aware that water responds to even delicate energy. I also want to let scientists and officials know that there is almost no protection currently being provided for water. I feel that my research can be used in the fields of health and medical care. There is not much interest in the importance of the physical characteristics of water. For example, it is said that mineral water is good for you, but there are few people who know that the minerals of mineral water can cause hardening of the arteries. Also, mineral water that is carbonated has a high acidity, making it unhealthy for the body. In any case, we need to avoid water that comes in a bottle and replace it with naturally flowing water. Water wants to be free. Joan also relayed the following. The important thing is that we recover our desire to treat water with respect. In our modern culture, we have lost our attitude of respect for water. In ancient Greece, people paid true respect to water, and many Greek myths are based on the protection of water. But then science appeared and rejected these myths because they were not scientific. Water lost its mystique and became just another substance that technology could clean up as necessary. We sometimes say, purified water is not pure. Water processed in treatment plants is not the water that forms beautiful crystals. What water requires is not purification, but respect. These wise words are the result of many years spent observing water. It was extremely encouraging to have such an accomplished scientist express interest in my research into crystals, out of respect for water. And finally, Joan gave me the following advice. If you are able to establish the physical foundations for your theories concerning ice crystals, you will be able to make an announcement to the world as very convincing research here, since Switzerland is highly recognized throughout the world for its research into water. This was indeed encouraging for me at a time when I was planning to establish a center in Switzerland to promote my research into water records information, and then while circulating throughout the earth distributes information. This water sent from the universe is full of the information of life, and one way to decipher this information is through the observation of ice crystals. When I see the many beautiful crystals formed from water, I get the feeling that I'm looking at the materialization of life before my eyes. The crystals that are formed when water is shown positive words are simply beautiful. The response of water to love and gratitude is nothing less than grandeur. These positive words give spirit to water, which materializes it, to reveal life at its fullest. I also have the impression that the act of looking at water crystals is an act of creating life. This is because when we look at the crystals, the water changes its appearance moment by moment. Your gaze has a special energy of its own, and while a gaze of good intentions will give courage, an evil gaze will actually take it away. A family that subscribed to our magazine conducted an interesting experiment. They put rice in 2 glass jars, and every day for a month said, "Thank you" to one jar and "You fool" to the other, and then they tracked how the rice changed over the period. Even the children, when they got home from school, would speak these words to the jars of rice. After a month, the rice that was told, "Thank you," started to ferment, with a mellow smell like that of malt, while the rice that was exposed to "You fool" rotted and turned black. I wrote about this experiment in the book that I published, and as a result, hundreds of families throughout Japan conducted this same experiment for themselves. Everyone reported the same results. One family tried a variation of the experiment. Like the others, they said, "Thank you" to the first bottle of rice and "You fool" to the second bottle, and then they prepared a third bottle of rice that they simply ignored. What do you think happened? The rice that was ignored actually rotted before the rice that was exposed to "You fool." When others tried this same experiment, the results were again the same. It seems that being ridiculed is actually not as damaging as being ignored. To give your positive or negative attention to something is a way of giving energy. The most damaging form of behavior is withholding your attention. I think that this experiment has the potential to teach us a very important lesson. We must take care to give our children our attention and to talk with them. Speaking words of kindness and love should begin from the time of conception. Treating your houseplants gently, looking on them kindly, and speaking words of praise will help to make them healthy and alive. This also applies to pets and even insects. Through this book, I hope that many more people will gain respect for water and look at water in a kinder way. The result will be that water will produce more beautiful crystals, and in this way, we will be participating in the creation of a small but beautiful world. I have no doubt that God greatly enjoys His work and wants to give us the same ability that He has the ability of creation. Then He will look down upon us with gentle eyes as we use our free agency to choose how we will use this ability. The memory of life arrived on this earth, carried by the soul of water. From this memory, life awoke, the human being emerged, and finally you and I were born. And now once again we look at water and breathe life into it. Your consciousness, awareness, and goodwill, and your smile from a feeling of love, all give new life to water and result in the creation of a new and glorious universe. Chapter 3. Consciousness creates all. Since becoming entranced by the wondrous powers of water, I have been blessed with the opportunity to see and conduct experiments on many types of water from around the world. Each sample of water from a different part of the world has its own unique and beautiful characteristics. I have also seen with my own eyes how the water of the world is becoming polluted. The World Trade Organization has stated that the 20th century started with wars for oil, but that in the 21st century, we will see wars for water. I mentioned that there is no tap water in Japan that is capable of forming complete and whole crystals, due to the use of chlorine. Chlorine, introduced at the beginning of the 20th century in London, has been used in Japan for more than 50 years now. In contrast to tap water, the water from springs, the upper reaches of rivers, and other such natural sources creates beautiful crystals. However, most of the water that is now emerging from the ground fell from the clouds more than 50 years ago, about the time that industrialization began in Japan. Pollution of rainwater has reached a global scale. I tried to take photographs of crystals formed using tap water from a city in Japan, which had been polluted with dioxin, but I couldn't get the water to produce even a shadow of a crystal. Industrial waste circulates, polluting water as it goes, and spreading toxins throughout the world. But there is hope. The people of the city with the dioxin-polluted water have become very interested in protecting their water, and now each year it is becoming easier and easier to form crystals. Pollution originated within our own consciousness. We started to think that we wanted a bountiful and convenient lifestyle at any cost, and this selfishness led to the pollution of the environment that now affects every corner of the globe. We have seen through the crystal photographs that water is the mirror of our souls. What do our souls look like, and how should they look? These are questions that can also be answered by water. In what direction are we headed? What is our role in protecting this planet? Such questions can only be considered when we recognize the greatness of the human being. Perhaps it is time that we stop seeing the human being as the evil agent. I think we underestimate the innate abilities that we each have. We have enormous power. Scientists estimate that there are between 108 and 111 elements. I suspect that the number is 108 for reasons, which I'll explain. Thus far, 90 elements have been verified in the human body of all the creatures alive. Only the human body contains so many elements. But I suspect that there are still elements left to be discovered within us, or that we will obtain the remaining elements as we evolve, moving closer to becoming complete human beings. The more evolved creatures contain a greater array of elements. Compared with human beings, plants contain far fewer elements. And what is the result of having fewer elements? We can deduce that fewer elements mean a smaller capacity for emotions. Other animals can feel pain, but it's most likely that only humans and other animals close in evolution to humans are capable of the higher emotions of sadness and passion. If we consider that the human body is a universe within itself, it is only natural to conclude that we carry within us all the elements. According to Buddhism, the human being is born with 108 earthly desires, such as confusion, attachment, jealousy, and vanity, which torture us throughout our lives. I think it is logical to conclude that these 108 earthly desires have counterparts in the 108 elements. In fact, the first vibration detection device that I introduced to Japan went a long way toward proving this. The device was capable of measuring the unique vibrations emitted around us and then transcribing them into water. I was able to measure the vibrations coming from many different people, and I realized that the negative vibrations that we emit correspond to the vibrations emitted by the various elements. For example, the vibrations created by irritation are equivalent to those of mercury, by anger to those of lead, and by sadness and sorrow to those of aluminum. In the same way, uncertainty is related to cadmium, despair to steel, and stress to zinc. In recent years, it has been pointed out that the use of aluminum pans and cooking utensils may be a contributing factor in Alzheimer's disease. If this is true, then it is likely that it is because aluminum has the same vibrational frequency as sadness, and so the sadness and sorrow of old age calls out to aluminum, leading to the onset of Alzheimer's. Joan Davis, the water scientist in the previous chapter, related the following interesting episode. A physicist conducted an experiment in which he studied how the positions of the stars affected water. Using water containing various minerals, he tested how easily paper soaked up the water when the stars were in certain positions. What he found was that when Saturn has a large influence on Earth, lead responded by being soaked up by the paper, while other elements such as copper, silver, and steel showed little or no response. We can deduce from this that there is a close connection between Saturn and lead. Metals resonate the emotions and moods of people, and so the next logical deduction is that Saturn is closely related to the emotion of anger. Perhaps the relationship between the constellations and personality talked about by astrologers and others may have something to do with the relationship with metals. This is a very meaningful theory for me, especially since I have my own ideas about the relationship between the 108 earthly desires and the elements. The number of planets in the solar system is 9, a number that when multiplied by 12 gives us 108. Using the periodic table, we may someday be able to identify which planets correlate to which elements. Even as I wrote the draft for this book, I saw a television program that said all the elements on Earth were created by the high heat of a star exploding in distant outer space. Just one more interesting piece of the puzzle. Throughout our lives, we will be subject to the 108 earthly desires. But how should we deal with these negative emotions that seem so impossible to avoid? Knowing how to deal with these negative feelings is the same knowledge that we need to get along well in this life. So what should we do if we find our minds full of anger, sadness, envy, or other negative thoughts? We first need to understand that it is not possible or necessary to rid ourselves of our emotions. There isn't anyone who is completely free from negative thoughts. We all carry within us a memory of our ancestors from the distant past, beginning with the awakening of the first human being, and we are all destined to inherit a portion of their negativity. However, it is indeed painful to be unable to free ourselves from constant negative thoughts and feelings that eat away at our souls. If only for a moment, how can we go about freeing ourselves from all of the negativity? Based on the principles of vibration, the answer is very clear. All we need to do is emit the emotion that is opposite to the negative emotion. By combining two opposite waves, the negative emotion disappears. A few years back, a university in Japan developed a method for erasing sound with sound. They would create one noise that would serve to erase the unwanted noise, and thus create a quiet space, for example, around a telephone. By identifying the wavelength of the unwanted noise, the researchers were able to create the exact opposite noise and broadcast it from speakers, completely wiping out the sound in a specific area. This same method has already been used to negate the noise made by automobile engines. There are parallels to this principle for human emotions. For every negative emotion, there is an exactly opposite positive emotion. The following list contains emotions that create opposing frequencies: hate, gratitude, anger, kindness, fear, courage, anxiety, peace of mind, pressure, presence of mind. The fact that two opposite emotions issue the same wave is significant for two reasons. First, like Jekyll and Hyde, we all have two faces. You probably are aware that people with short tempers tend to be quick to cry, and that it's not uncommon for someone who everyone sees as being a good person to suddenly commit a crime. We frequently hear about a man who is kind and gentle to his girlfriend, but who becomes threatening and violent as soon as she talks about leaving him. While there is no one who hasn't an evil bone in their body, there is also no one who is totally evil to the core. The fact that someone harbors opposing emotions simply makes them human. If you have been made sick by the emotion of hate, then you need to look for healing in the emotion of appreciation. But even if you know this, it still may be difficult to fill your heart with gratitude if it is already filled with hate for others. At such times, it might be helpful to rely on the services of a healer. Perhaps it is possible that the miracle water of Lourdes in France, which is said to have healing powers, is filled with the feelings of appreciation of the Mother Mary. As a result, people who have been made ill by the vibrations of hate can be miraculously healed by drinking this holy water. This is the same principle involved in homeopathy. Why? When a poison is diluted in water to the point where it can no longer be physically detected, does the previously toxic solution then become therapeutic? When the substance itself is gone, and all that is left is the information from the vibration, both poison and medicine become the same. Logically thinking, medicine is not good for the body. It may alleviate symptoms and get rid of pain, but medicine can also become a powerful poison. Medicine that gets rid of pain happens to have the opposite vibrational frequency of the targeted pain. By mixing various substances together in a lab, you'll be able to find the frequency that you are looking for. When you inject the substance into a mouse and get the desired effect, you can then try giving the substance to humans. When the medicine enters the body and stops the pain, the vibrations from the combined substances stop, and the various substances return to their original states, in which they emit their original vibrations. However, if these vibrations happen to damage other cell structures, then harmful side effects will result. Medicine is useful in the treatment of illness, but we don't really understand why medicine works. When you look at medicine from the standpoint of vibration, you get a totally different picture. For example, during an operation, the damaged vibrational frequency is treated with a much more powerful frequency. Let's say that you fall from a building and hit the ground. At the moment of impact, your body's frequency increases many hundreds of times, creating an obviously critical situation. Dramatic and sudden changes in the body's frequency result in great pain and damage. In such cases, treatment must involve equal or stronger frequencies to be effective, often having to do with the scalpel. Sharp instruments, by nature, have a high frequency, and it's the surgeon's job to use such instruments to cut into the body and return the patient's frequency to normal. In my opinion, a doctor who treats the human body must first be a philosopher. In the past, the doctor was the community shaman or priest, exhorting people to follow the laws of nature, live their lives correctly, and make use of the healing powers found in nature. If doctors were to treat not only the sick parts of the body, but also the human consciousness, then I think we would see a great reduction in the need for doctors and hospitals. People with ailments would go to their nearby philosopher for help in understanding the mistakes they have made, and then go home determined to live a better life. It may well be that the physicians of the future will be more like counselors than the doctors we have today. I have talked with many people about their health problems, and I have come to see that ailments are largely a result of negative emotions. If you can erase the cause of such emotions, you have an innate capacity to recover from illness. The importance of being positive cannot be underestimated. Positive thinking will strengthen your immune system and help to set you moving towards recovery, a fact that the medical community is starting to wake up to. For instance, There is a doctor who treats his cancer patients with mountain climbing. Giving people a reason to live boosts their spirits and their immune systems. There is also an increase in interest in holistic medicine, not only treating the symptoms of the illness, but overseeing the patient's lifestyle and psychological well-being. In fact, doctors have recently formed an organization called the Japan Holistic Medical Society to promote this type of medicine in Japan. The days of believing only that which can be seen by the naked eye have passed, and we are now starting to open our eyes to the importance of the soul. It's a move in the right direction, and I think it will become the way the majority thinks within this century. The human body is essentially water, and consciousness is the soul. Methods that help water to flow smoothly are superior to all other medical methods available to us. It's all about keeping the soul in an unpolluted state. Can you imagine what it would be like to have water capable of forming beautiful crystals, flowing throughout your entire body? It can happen if you let it. Among all medicines, there are none with the healing powers of love. Since I came to this realization, I have continued to tell people that immunity is love. What could be more effective at overcoming negative powers and returning vitality to the body? However, I have recently felt the need to change my terminology. I now know that it is not love alone that forms immunity, but love and gratitude. I became convinced of this from the following experiment. I heated water in a microwave oven and then attempted to see the impact of the magnetic field on crystals. I used 2 types of water, distilled water and water from the tap shown the words love and gratitude. The crystals formed from the distilled water were deformed and incomplete, but the water shown the words love and gratitude formed complete crystals. In other words, love and gratitude were able to make the water immune to the damaging effects of the magnetic field. I have mentioned that water shown the words love and gratitude forms the most beautiful crystals. Of course, the word love alone has the ability to create wonderful crystals, but love and gratitude combine to give the crystals a unique depth and refinement, a diamond-like brilliance. I also discovered that the love and gratitude crystals actually look more like the gratitude crystals than the love crystals. What this indicates is that the gratitude vibration is more powerful and has a greater influence. Love tends to be a more active energy, the act of giving oneself unconditionally. By contrast, gratitude is a more passive energy, a feeling that results from having been given something, knowing that you have been given the gift of life, and reaching out to receive it joyously with both hands. The relationship between love and gratitude may be similar to the relationship between sun and shade. If love is the sun, gratitude is the moon. If love is man, gratitude is woman. So then, what does it mean to say that the passive energy of the shade or gratitude is stronger than love? When I was thinking about this question, I stumbled upon an interesting concept, which became an important clue to answering the question concerning how we can and should live our lives. What is the relationship between love and gratitude? For an answer to this question, we can use water as a model. A water molecule consists of 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom, represented by H2O. If love and gratitude, like oxygen and hydrogen, were linked together in a ratio of 1:2, gratitude would be twice as large as love. I suggest that having twice the amount of gratitude as love is the balance we should strive for. At a seminar, after I had mentioned this in my presentation, 2 young women came up to me and said, "We were very impressed. Weren't you saying that people have 1 mouth for speaking and 2 ears for listening?" "That's right, that's absolutely right," I exclaimed. and I knew that I had become a little wiser. When we observe the natural world, we can see that the passive energy has greater strength. The fish of the sea produce enormous numbers of eggs, but not all of them hatch. Only a small portion reach the stage where they hatch, while the remaining eggs are offered as food to other creatures. Have human beings lived in a ratio of 2 parts gratitude and 1 part love? I suspect that the exact opposite is true. Of course, the grandeur of love cannot be denied, and most people do have a general understanding of the power of love. However, we have been raised in a culture where all our focus is placed on the energy of love, while the other side of the formula receives little attention. The focus of the human race has been drawn away from that which cannot be seen and towards the obvious physical world. And in order to make as much of this physical world our own as possible, we have cut down forests and fought back deserts in an effort to ensure the supreme domination of our culture. Such advancements by human society may indeed be the result of love for our families and our countries, but as long as we continue to live our lives based on this strategy, there will be no end to conflict. The history of the 20th century was the history of fighting and warfare. Perhaps we are finally beginning to see that the direction we are moving in leads nowhere. We have sacrificed too much in order to secure the riches of life. Forests have been destroyed and clean water lost, and we have cut up and sold the earth itself. What the world needs now is gratitude. We must begin by learning what it means to have enough. We need to feel gratitude for having been born on a planet so rich in nature, and gratitude for the water that makes our life possible. Do we really know how wonderful it is to be able to breathe a big breath of clean air? If you open your eyes, you will see that the world is full of so much that deserves your gratitude. When you have become the embodiment of gratitude, think about how pure the water that fills your body will be. When this happens, you yourself will be a beautiful, shining crystal of light. Please stay tuned for part 2. Peace, blessing, and much love to you all.